G'day guys, I'm Wayne from Kokoda Spirit. Well, welcome to the Itinerary. I'm just going to talk you through your journey across the Kokoda Trail. All the hard work has now been done. All the blood, sweat and tears of months of training has come to this. There's going to be a few nerves, lots of excitement. Stay tuned as we walk you across day by day across your journey. Well guys, it's day one and there'll be a few butterflies going on right now, a few little nerves. We've got a bit of a longish day today as we're going to drive from the Gateway Hotel via Bamana War Cemetery, via McDonald's Corner, then finally arrive at Owers Corner where you're going to commence your journey. Guys, at Bamana War Cemetery, we're going to stop and reflect on the 3,310 Australian soldiers who are laid to rest there, losing their lives in numerous different campaigns in the Papua New Guinea and Solomon Island area through there. And this will set the stage for what's going to be quite a remarkable spiritual and walk in some of the most amazing Australian history. From Bamana War Cemetery, we've got an hour and a half drive up to Owers Corner. But on the way, we're going to stop at McDonald's Corner, which is where the 39th Battalion, the first company of men to walk across the trail, actually started walking from, led by Captain Sam Templeton. This is the furthest point that the road actually got it back at that stage there. We're going to stop and have a look at the little memorial there before finally continuing our journey up to Owers Corner. And your first look at the magnificent and quite daunting Owen Stanley Ranges. At Owers Corner, it's quite a surreal feeling to know that you're actually about to commence one of the most incredible journeys and one of the most amazing adventures of your life. All that hard work, all that training, months and months of preparation is finally here. As you take that first step under the arches to walk down to the Goldie River is going to be one of the most incredible feelings of your life. You might have a little of, your legs might feel a bit jelly depending on the season. You might be slipping and sliding a little bit, but you know what? Just take your time. That first little bit down to the river is truly an amazing experience. We get to the Goldie River, we're going to take our boots off, put our sandals on and walk across this magnificent river before then commencing our walk up into the Goodwater campsite. We'll get in the Goodwater campsite and with enough time in the afternoon. It's only a 3-hour walk today, and for you to relax and just contemplate the first day being on the track there. There's a good little river to swim in and have a wash before we settle down for the afternoon of our meals and a bit of a chat and really get started to know the rest of the trekkers on your journey. Day two is a 7-hour journey today. And we're going to cross 22 rivers on our way up to the campsite at IORABAIWA. We're actually going to cross up through Itinerary Ridge, which some of you may have read about was what they call the Golden Stairs. Unfortunately, the Golden Stairs are no longer there. They were just a series of timber steps put in for the soldiers to make their way up towards Itinerary Ridge and across the other side there. And from the very top of Itinerary Ridge, that's also the furthest point that the Australian soldiers actually withdrew back to. It's where the line was drawn in the sand. There was to be no more withdrawal past that point. Our boys would stand there and fight to the death. So quite a very much significant part of the Kokoda Trail campaign from that area there. And it'll be your first glimpse at some Australian weapon pits, and you start to get a real feel of what took place on this journey. From the top of Itinerary Ridge, we've got a very, very steep descent down to Farleigh Creek area where we're going to do 22 river crossings. So you'll take your boots off, you'll get into your adventure sandals, and it's one of the most beautiful places on the track there. We just wind our way through a beautiful valley, making sure we go across the streams, walking through sand beds, and trying to avoid walking on the rocks. Because walking on the rocks can be quite slippery, and we don't want to be having an accident this close, this early on into our journey there. So enjoy the beauty of the great place, but you need to be walking very carefully and avoiding walking on the slippery rocks in this area. After we finished the 22 river crossings, we would have stopped halfway across for lunch and then had a beautiful swim in one of the rivers there. But then we're going to make our ascent up to IORABAIWA Ridge, which is about an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes climb. Quite hot and quite steep, and going to be a real good test to see how you're travelling and to get ourselves up into camp at IORABAIWA, which is a beautiful long campsite with a spectacular view out towards Owers Corner. And hopefully, if the weather's kind to us, a really, really nice sunset. Day 3, guys. Today our destination is going to be the village of NAORO, and depending on how we're travelling, we might even try and push down to down towards the Brown River to Agalago. But at least a 7-hour journey today. So we're going to climb to up the rest of the IORABAIWA ridgeline, which is the furthest point that the Japanese got to. So actually today we're going to be walking in to the actual battle zones up the top of the ridgeline there. We'll actually stop there and reflect and try and get an understanding of what took place up in this area here. There's a large number of Australian soldiers lost their lives in this particular region, and it's quite a spiritual start to our journey up through this area there. From the top of IORABAIWA Ridge, we're going to then descend down to Offie Creek, and which is a magnificent little river, and we'll stop and a chance to have a bit of a swim. We're going to have some snacks, we're going to fill up our water bottles, and then we're going to commence a journey up the Maguli Range, which is going to take us between 2 to 3 hours to climb up the Maguli Range. It's also what they call the start of the 9 false peaks. You may have read about the 9 false peaks, but I'm here to tell you there are more than 9 false peaks. It's probably 11 or 12. But just take your time as we walk up along this ridge line and to get to a lunch spot, which is very close to the top of the hill there. So really, we're just walking from Offie Creek to lunch for 2 to 3 hours. We get there, we stop and have a rest, refuel ourselves before we commence the last bit of the ridge line. We get to 1,350 metres above sea level at the top of the Maguli Range. So a great feeling to have knocked that off. And then we've got a descent down to the village of NAORO. And you'll get a great glimpse of the village as we start to descend down and see where tonight's destination and campsite's going to be. Day 4, destination today, guys, is Brigade Hill. So we're going to continue our journey from the beautiful little village of NAORO, and we're going to descend downhill until we reach the swamp. Now, depending on what time of year that you're walking, the swamp can be nice and flat and dry, or it could be one of the worst conditions on the track there with lots of heavy water, heavy mud that's somewhere between your ankles and your knees and can make for some very, very difficult walking. Through the swamp area, it could take up to 3 hours, so make sure that you've got plenty of AeroGuard or Bushman's on to protect yourselves from the mosquitoes in this area there. And then we'll eventually get to the Brown River, and once again, depending on what time of season it is, there may be a log crossing there for us to get across, or we may just wade across if the weather's kind to us across the Brown River before hitting to a beautiful little village called Agalago, where we'll stop and have some morning tea and a chance just to relax for a little bit. And then from there, we've got another 45 minutes until we get to what's called the Wall. And some of you may be wondering what the Wall is all about. Well, it's called the Wall for a reason. It's quite a very steep initial climb, but the good thing about the Wall, it only goes for about an hour and a half straight uphill. So if you've been thinking about your training sessions, the Wall is tough to start with, but it's all about taking small steps and just gradually getting up the top of the hill there. From the top of the Wall, and we'll eventually get to what's called the Minari Gap, and then from Minari Gap we've got a 45-minute descent down to the second largest village on the track, which I've just said before is called Minari there. We'll stop there and once again have something to eat, a chance to get some more water, and then we're going to commence our journey up to Brigade Hill. Brigade Hill is one of the most historic and special places on the track. Between the 6th, 7th and 8th of September 1942, over 101 Australian soldiers lost their lives in the Battle of Brigade Hill and Mission Ridge there. You can almost feel the spirit of the diggers carrying up this hill to one of these most significant Australian historical battlefields. There's not any great memorial up there, except for the energy of the boys who sacrificed so much for us up there. To me, Brigade Hill is certainly a highlight to be able to spend some time up there for us to be able to reflect and have a service. We'll actually camp at Brigade Hill, and we'll actually do a dusk service and to pay our respects up there to the boys. Day 5, and our destination today is the village of NADURI, and it's a 4-hour walk, and we're going to descend down from Brigade Hill and we're going to see out to our left-hand side. We're going to see where Mission Ridge was. We're going to walk past the area that the Bone Man, Kenichi Nishimura, came back to recover his Japanese mates who lost their lives up this area there. And then we're going to descend down into the village of Afogi, which is the largest village on the Kokoda Trail, of an airfield, and of a population of about 1,000 people. But clearly you won't see that many people there. Most people now have sort of moved back into Moresby. And then from Afogi, we've got a short, sharp climb up to Afogi number 2. And it's about a 35-minute climb. And we'll stop it up the top there. We'll have some morning tea there, hopefully get some fresh fruit from the villagers before we descend down. A rather steep downhill descent for about 35 to 45 minutes. And then we've got what I call probably one of the toughest, shortest climbs on the track, but it's really quite tough. Going from the river up to the village of NADURI, which is going to take us about another hour and a half. But the good news is, guys, it's a half-day holiday. So we'll get to NADURI. It's a beautiful grassed campsite and a lovely village, for a chance for us to sort of explore the village, chill out, wash some clothes, and just enjoy the ambience of the place. Day 6, our destination today is campsite called 1900. It's called 1900 because that's actually the altitude that we're going to reach today. It's a really, really spectacular walk. Quite a long uphill walk from the village of NADURI to the highest point of this section of the track, at roughly around about 2,000 metres. But the scenery is spectacular. We're going to be walking through an ancient Arctic beech forest, and some of the trees are just incredible. Hundreds of years old. We have giant pandanus trees. We have grandfather moss dropping down, and these beech trees are just something to behold. And there's some spectacular bird life up there. You may hear some of the birds of paradise up through that area through there, and lots of little animals running around outside in the bush area there. A really, really beautiful walk up through the jungle there today. So stop and have a look around today, guys, because it really is some of the most incredible scenery that you've ever seen. It really is like walking through a dinosaur park. On reaching 1900 camp, it's a beautiful grass campsite, and we've got a very cold, crystal clear river for you to bathe in tonight. The water is really, really icy cold, but you know what? It's fantastic to just have a good wash in it. Great for your muscles and any aching joints. And it's a good opportunity just to freshen yourself up there as well. It really is a beautiful campsite, and there'll be a good chance tonight just to sit around the fire and just reflect on how much you've achieved on this journey so far. Day 7, and our destination today is EORA Creek. But before we get to EORA Creek, we are going to cross the highest point of the track, 2,190 metres, which is the shoulder of Mount Bellamy. And once again, spectacular scenery. This part of the jungle is some of the most incredible ancient jungle that you're ever going to see anywhere. So we've got about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, depending on how we're travelling, once again, depending on how much mud there is, to get from the 1900 campsite to the highest point of the track and then on to the Kokoda Gap. And some of you may have read about the Kokoda Gap. This was a fabled position that the Australian hierarchy decided that we were going to blow up, and a little bit like Thermopylae, the 300 Spartans, we're going to just some dynamite this area here and just hold the Japanese back with a company of men. Unfortunately, the gap's about 10 kilometres wide, so you do the sums, it's a fair bit of dynamite would have been needed to do that. But if the weather's kind to us, we may catch a glimpse down the EORA Creek Valley, down to the Yoda Valley, which is ultimately going to be our destination in a couple of days' time. So from the top of the Kokoda Gap, we've got a very steep descent down to EORA Creek, and it's also known as Templeton's Crossing number 1 or Dump 1. And then we've got a magnificent bridge crossing, log crossing to get across there. And then we're going to make our way to Templeton's Crossing number 2, but on the ridge line. So we're just going to be going up and down along the side of the ridge line. Really spectacular walking and a good chance just to really soak in the incredible beauty of this place. We'll get to Templeton's Crossing, and then we'll actually stop there for lunch. And there's a chance, once again, to go and have a swim and refresh yourself up, clean yourself up, do some washing if you want, and just relax in the sun whilst the boys cook up a sumptuous lunch for us to continue our journey. From Templeton's Crossing, we are then going to do the last 3 hours of today's journey, once again making our way up and down along the ridgeline to our final destination at EORA Creek. EORA Creek is a spectacular campsite. It's one of my favourite campsites on the trail, and with a beautiful water hole and great vistas of the valleys coming down either side of us. So a great way to finish today's walk. Day 8, our destination today is the village of ISURAVA. We're going to depart EORA Creek and we're going to cross over what we've dubbed the Bamboo Sydney Harbour Bridge. It's a spectacular bamboo bridge made by the locals and the Kokoda Track Authority to allow us to have safe passage over this pretty amazing river of EORA Creek. After EORA Creek, we've got an opportunity to stop at a Japanese defensive position, and we get to see some of the Japanese artillery shells and that were firing down on the Australians. And then from that point on there, we're going to continue our journey till we get to the village of Wetherall, which is perched on a spectacular precipice and overlooking the Yoda Valley down towards Kokoda region down through there. Wetherall was the position that Brigadier Potts held whilst the Battle of ISURAVA was taking place, and was able to control the troop movements from this position down there. And also it was an RAP, so a place where the wounded soldiers would come back to during and after the Battle of ISURAVA. From Wetherall, we would have stopped. We've had some morning tea and chance to mix with the locals, and then we're going to make our final descent down to the battlefields of ISURAVA, which to me, ISURAVA is probably, along with Brigade Hill, one of the most significant and spiritual battlefields, pieces of land in Australia's history. You know, we all talk about Gallipoli being the birthplace of our nation, but the Kokoda Trail and the battles of Brigade Hill in ISURAVA, it's Australia coming of age. You've done a long walk across this track, and you are now about to step onto sacred ground. The ground the young Australians gave their blood. It really is an emotional and spiritual journey down to ISURAVA. For me, the hairs consistently stand on the back of my neck as I think about the sacrifice and the blood loss that took place on this trip. Had our boys not done what they did at ISURAVA, the whole course of Australia's history could have been so much different. You know, a bunch of young Australians, the Choco soldiers, the 39th Battalion, and the heroic 2nd 14th Battalion coming in to assist them, have held back a ferocious Japanese tiger hell-bent on taking our land and changing our lives. To me, it really is one of the most significant and powerful places in Australia's history. We will stop and we will reflect at ISURAVA. We'll have plenty of chances just to look around and feel the energy and soak in the emotions of this place. We'll do a service there, a chance to read some poems, a chance to remember what took place in this area there. From the battlefields, we've then got a 1 hour walk down to the ISURAVA village. The village is relocated from the battlefields because of the bloodshed, and the locals believe the spirits that are surrounding this area, they had to move. So we've got an hour to walk from the battlefields down to the village, and it's a powerful hour. It's an hour to reflect and just feel the sheer emotion and energy and spirits of these diggers that went before us. In ISURAVA village is a great village. It's a big village, and it's got lots of energy and lots of kids coming around. So, you know, as we enter the village, there'll be kids will be running up to us and wanting to play. So, an opportunity to kick a football around with them, throw a frisbee, and for those people that are carrying footballs or tennis balls, save some for this place. This really is a great village, and as I say, the kids love to sing, they love to dance, they love to play, and you know what? We're nearly home, so a chance just to reflect and have some fun. Well, here we are, day 9. We're nearly done. We're nearly dusted. We haven't quite smashed it yet, though. Day 9, a critical day for us. We have a really long downhill. We've got 5 hours. to get down to Kokoda, between 5 and 6 hours. We need to be really careful today. You know, you're nearly done, but it's very steep and very slippery, so you need to stay focused. We've got to get to the finish all in one piece. So don't drop the ball here, guys. All right, stay on the game, walk safely, and be aware of your surroundings. It's from ISURAVA village, we're going to descend down to Deniki, which once again was a wartime battlefield, and all part of the withdrawal from Kokoda back to Deniki. Your guide will talk to you more about the significance of Deniki through there. But when you get to Deniki, you'll actually see the finish line of Kokoda. The valley opens way open like this, and down in the distance you'll see the Kokoda airfield, and you'll see the Kokoda township down through there, and you know you're just about done. At Deniki we'll stop, we'll have some morning tea, soak in the atmosphere, and then we've got a 33-minute descent down to what I think is probably the greatest way to finish, at the little village of Hoi. And we're going to stop and we're going to reflect in this spectacular, crystal clear and refreshing river, and just lay back and just soak up the atmosphere. Because you know why? We're off the mountain. And from this point onwards, it's reasonably flat walking. But as your guide will say, it's just a series of small undulations to the finish line from here. Guys, we're going to leave Hoi now, and then we're on our way to Kokoda. It's the two battles that took place in Kokoda, once again, were a great opportunity for us to slow up the Japanese from moving forward. And had we not done what we did at Kokoda, once again, the course of the battles could have changed so dramatically. The last 15 minutes of your walk in the Kokoda there, from the arches to the battlefield, is chilling. It's emotional. It's evocative. You really have walked in the footsteps of heroes here. It's an incredible feeling to know what you've achieved. It's really, really hard to describe the emotions of completing this enormous journey, and not many people will understand what you went through to achieve your goal to walk across Kokoda. Not many people can understand the courage, endurance, mateship and sacrifice of our diggers before us. Only you that have walked in the footsteps of these heroes truly know what Kokoda is all about. Kokoda, done, dusted, smashed it. Well done, everybody.